do what I wanna, innovate what I'm gonna. You can hate all you wanna, but you sold your pajama. Now I ain't a prima donna, but I built what I wanna. You can say my vision's wrong, the tune of my song. Broke my thumb, bang into my own drum. Broke my thumb, bang into my own drum. Broke my thumb, bang into my own drum. Hootin' and clapping, boots I am a strapping, a click click clacking. Hurrah! Bootstrapping in America. Yeah, bootstrapping in America.
Christy, we're back. Bootstrapping in America.
Welcome to Bootstrapping in America, where we interview some of the hottest entrepreneurs in Chicago and beyond. Our guest today is the founder of 120 Life, which is the first functional drink to help manage hypertension, combining the natural benefits of common blood pressure medication. Please welcome Ira Antelis. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I am fascinated by your background because you have this incredible depth of knowledge and I'll say creativity in the music industry.
Sure.
So walk us through a little bit about your background.
You know, I grew up in Brooklyn. And
Me
there
too.
you go. You guys
Bensonhurst
are already
and Marine Park.
separated at birth.
high school. Where'd you go?
I went to James Madison High School.
That's where my dad went.
Oh, okay.
I went to Midwood.
Oh, Midwood. Yeah, okay. There we go.
Okay.
We'll talk.
And you know, it was either basketball or music, and it didn't work out for basketball. I wasn't good enough, and always had a love for music, always from early on, because I was taking piano lessons, played in the assemblies, music directed shows, went to Manhattan School of Music, and after you graduate, the question becomes, what do you do? How do you make a living in music?
Right.
And, I wanted to be, I guess, songwriting, because by then I had started to write music, and my sister's father, my sister's best friend's father was in the jingle industry, and we begged him to meet me. And I learned early on that you could make a pretty good living doing jingles and then continue to do what else you wanted to do.
Right.
And that's how my career began.
Well, okay, so one of the things you've done, first of all, you've owned a number of different companies within the music industry.
That's correct.
But you also, you composed songs that were either sung or recorded by like Patti LaBelle and Mark Anthony and Gloria Estefan and Christina Aguilera and Cheap Trick, and I could go on and on and on. Very impressive.
Thank you.
So, and I also saw that you composed a few stage plays or musicals, right?
Musicals,
yeah.
Theater, yes.
Yeah, very cool. I am going to share with them, though, my favorite of all time, which I'm sure you hear this all the time, okay? And I'm going to actually have Beth, if you can play that for us, the video. This is one of my absolute favorites.
Sometimes I dream that he is me.
I just want to sing along with
You
it.
got to see
Well, that was
that's
the
how I
idea.
dream
We
to
have them
be.
sing along.
Right.
I dream, I move,
I move.
I dream, I
These are your
groove.
songs?
Like Mike,
Yeah.
if I could be like Mike.
Oh, if I could be like mine.
Like Mike, if I could be like.
Good job out
That
of
is,
you.
I know. That is
So,
seriously one of my favorites.
The agency was, I think at that time, Bayer Best Vanderwalker. The person who had the idea was the creative director, Bernie Pitzel. And I wrote the melody and the song, and my partner, Steve Schaefer, produced it.
So if you can't play basketball, at least you can sing about it, right? Or
That's
write
right.
about it.
That's correct.
That is awesome. That's one of my favorites. So how did that actually come about? How did you get that? How did you get that job to write that?
You know, actually, I was telling Jules the story that they had licensed or had a commitment from Disney to use the Jungle Book song "I Want to Be Like You." So, and somehow, and the commercial, so this is like a Thursday, that's the music they're going to use. The commercial goes on air Monday, and something fell through in negotiations. We got a call probably at noon on Thursday, can you do something by Friday? And at that time, music companies would always compete. And so they called me and a couple other people, and we worked all night, but we presented it Friday, and we won.
They
That
called
is-
guys like you in Brooklyn a fixer. You fix things. That's right.
You know, I'm like, we're going to win this, because I knew what was at stake. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, Michael Jordan, you know, national commercial Gatorade.
Doesn't get any bigger than that. It's the World Series. Yeah.
I know.
I'm like, we're going to win this.
Yeah,
so,
that is
that's what
impressive. Totally impressive. So, okay, so you were also with Leo Burnett for a while too, right?
Yeah, so Cheryl Berman was the chief creative officer of Leo Burnett, and everybody in the advertising industry sort of has their own music people, and we wrote a lot of music for Disney and other things, and she was so busy, the story goes, that she could I could write with her and she'd never come over to hear it because she was always at Leo Burnett, and she says, well, why don't I just move you into Leo Burnett? This way I only have to ride the elevator down 20 floors to, and I had never been in corporate America like that. I'm like, I'll take that job, and became music director of Leo Burnett, did a lot of music for them, outsourced a lot of music, licensed a lot of music, so it was really great.
That's awesome. So, all right, so I'm going to fast forward now. Because I really am super curious how, what led to starting 120 Life?
So this is a very strange story that I had a health issue, and it was exacerbated by all of a sudden high blood pressure. Now, I'm somebody who has worked out for almost every day of my life for over 40 years. I take one day a year off. I'm Jewish, so I take off Yom Kippur. That's it. And you can ask my wife. I don't start my day until I'm on the Stairmaster for about 40 years. And I'm like, well, how can I have high blood pressure? I work out, and the doctors are like, it has nothing to do with it. And it could be genetic. It could be what you're eating. But you have like 3 weeks to lower it because of my other health issue. Otherwise, we're going to have to operate.
Oh, wow.
And that was like literally like that. And I'm like, okay, 3 weeks, put me on medication. I know nothing about high blood pressure except what everybody else knows, that it can cause a stroke. But I don't know what it is, how you get it. So I go home, start taking the medication. The first thing I did was I cut 100% of my salt out. Mm-hmm. And in 3 weeks, my blood pressure had become pretty normal. So I was okay. But then I was sort of fascinated about, because I was reading about food, what can you eat, can you drink, all of these things. And I keep reading about 6 or 7 things, because we're always on our phones, we're online, I'm writing music, and in between I'm taking a break. I keep reading about like pomegranate juice lowers your blood pressure 8%. Hibiscus tea lowers your blood pressure 12%. Beetroot powder. And I'm like, and then one day I'm like, okay, if all of these things lower your blood pressure, totaling up to probably 40 or 50%, somebody must have put them together. And I'm looking, nothing. And like I say, tell everybody, we could all have ideas. I could sit with you and everybody in this room for a month, and we could toss out ideas, and every idea we have has been done. There's no new ideas. But I'm looking, and I can't find it. There is no functional beverage that exists for people with high blood pressure. Then you start doing the numbers, just like 100 million people. I'm like, wow, 100 million people with high blood pressure.
100 million people in the U.S.
In the U.S. So now worldwide it's probably about close to 500 million.
Sure.
So if we can garner, let's say, 1/100th of the market, we'll be pretty successful. I got a business. So I've never really spent any time in the kitchen, but I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I start figuring it out. My wife and kids are laughing at me. And I just start going to Whole Foods and other places, getting the ingredients. And
it's like a beautiful medley, just putting it together. Beautiful notes, putting it together to form another song.
Putting
the music, putting the music together.
Yeah.
It's the parallel. And I'm like, okay, it'll be 8 ounces. I knew some of the proportions. As I always tell people, the study I read said, okay, if you drink 2 ounces of pomegranate juice a day, it'll lower your blood pressure. So I'm like, okay, out of my 8 ounces, 2 ounces will be pomegranate juice. Mm-hmm. And I formulated it from there. Now the question is, does it work? Mm-hmm. So I start drinking it, and my blood pressure goes way lower. Start giving it to people, and their blood pressure is dropping in 4 or 5 days, 30, 40, 50 points. I'm like, we might have something here.
Yeah. Did you hire a nutritionist or a chemist or anything?
And everybody was still laughing at me. So I said, you know what? Okay, I might not know anything about this, but one of my oldest friends, Susan Schachter, is a nutritionist. So I called her, sent her the ingredients, and she started researching, said, why don't we add magnesium? And we tinkered. And so she gave it the legitimacy it needed. Okay. Then I went to my doctor and said, look, I have this drink. My blood pressure has really lowered. He said, if you want, you can cut your medication in half, and he came on board, and that's sort of the beginnings of how it started.
That is awesome. So she, your nutritionist. So is it certified? Like, is there a certification or anything that you had to go through?
She's certified. I'm not.
So she's certified, and
she's totally legitimate. I'm like, put her on the air. I don't know. She lives in New York, so. So, if there were interviews there, she'll do them.
Okay.
But she gave it the legitimacy, and my doctor gave it the legitimacy. And real fast, the reason why this is an amazing drink is pretty simple. And I didn't know this when I created it, that if you go to a doctor and you have high blood pressure, they give you 2 or 3 or 4 kinds of medications. They give you what's called a diuretic. In our drink, hibiscus is a diuretic.
Got it.
They give you what's called an ACE inhibitor.
Okay.
In our drink, pomegranate juice is an ACE inhibitor.
Okay.
They give you a calcium channel blocker. Magnesium is. So what you have in 120 Life is a natural cocktail of all the medications they might give you in one.
Got
and
it.
that's why we believe people see really good results.
Perfect. So run through what's in it, and I am going to try it right now.
Okay, shake it up. So there's hibiscus tea, there's pomegranate juice, there's beetroot powder, which is it opens up your blood vessels, tart cherry juice, magnesium,
Oh, I like that.
cranberry juice, and stevia, which is a natural plant-based sugar. And every ingredient, including the stevia, has studies showing it lowers your blood pressure.
And so I was afraid it was going to be too sweet, and it's
No,
not. It
it's
has this
not.
wonderful tart. And I love cherry juice, and I love pomegranate juice and all that kind of stuff. So this is like in my wheelhouse. I am buying this for Tom, the one in the beret out there, and for Jules for Christmas. I'm doing
There you go. I
a
appreciate it.
subscription.
120life.com, and then we're on Amazon starting probably first of next week.
How long have you been selling it for? How long have you been selling it for?
So we launched today. Everybody's saying, "Well, you can't do this." I'm like, "Oh no, you don't know me. I'm going to do this."
Because you need packaging now, you need bottles.
Yeah,
So the true story is, my cousin, through marriage, is besides being my closest friend, is one of the top distributors in the world, and he's very skeptical of everything. But he had high blood pressure. I said, "Okay, here's the deal. I'm going to give you, because I would make them in these jugs, 128 ounces. You drink it for a week. If your blood pressure goes down, you have to commit to distribute the
I
product."
love
great,
that.
man.
Good
Yes.
negotiations.
And I got the text because he doesn't believe it. So like 4 or 5 days later, he says, my blood pressure dropped 30 points, but I still don't think it's working.
Right.
About 3 or 4 days later, he dropped another 10 points, and he says, "Okay, you win," and he committed, and he's become my partner.
That is awesome. So how can somebody buy this? They buy it like with a subscription? Like
You go
how does
online,
it-
you got people subscribe,
Yeah.
or they buy it online. It's 120life.com, and it comes in a box, 7-pack, once every day of the week. You drink it once in the morning. And what people always call me and say, Ira, and because I return all the phone calls, they're like, "I haven't done anything else. I haven't exercised. I haven't, and my blood pressure is going down."
So as far as like, is there and there's probably something, do you have something at home that you actually monitor yourself?
Yeah, exactly. So what we recommend is people, if you have high blood pressure, because what people don't realize is that if you have high blood pressure, you need to do something about it. A lot of times they call it the silent killer because you don't know you have it.
Right.
I'm like exercising and I'm thought I'm fine and I have high blood pressure. So we recommend either you can go to Walgreens or one of the pharmacies. They usually take your blood pressure for free, or you could buy a blood pressure monitor at your house. And
They're
every
30,
morning,
40 bucks. I mean,
exactly.
you can pick one. I mean, it's cheap.
It could change your life.
Yeah, I
if
mean, you don't need
have it.
a $500 machine.
Yeah, you
that
don't
would
need, I
sit-
have like the $30 or $40
Right.
machine. I monitor it. And real fast, the other thing is people don't realize, think of it this way, think of a garden hose. And think if your blood flows through a garden hose, that's normal blood pressure. Now take the same amount of blood and try to put that blood through a drinking straw.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
high blood pressure. So
Yeah,
that's
sure.
where all the stress comes on your heart and causes all the issues. That's high blood pressure.
Right.
And most people don't know that.
And you drink one of these a day.
One a day.
One a day.
For life.
What if I want to drink more?
Sounds simple. Can
This
you
is
make something
really good.
else for other ailments too? I'll just drink a whole lot of stuff and be done.
My
What's
true
next?
passion is still music. I'm like, and stocks. So
Oh, nice. Okay, so you trade as well.
well, I don't really. I have somebody who does that, but I'm fascinated by it. My father, may he rest in peace, always played the stock market, so it's just like I'm always looking at stocks and seeing what's right. But I don't. Every time I do something, it goes bad, so I stay out of it.
So talking about this, so you look at this, you just launched this year, right?
Yeah, about 5 months ago.
So you have desire to go public one day? be a public company?
We're actually talking to a bunch of investors now because I want to scale it. I mean, I just know that there is a massive need for this. And people, the thing about medications, and again, my father was a pharmacist, so I grew up, delivering medication, in Brooklyn. Sure. So these medications can cause long-term side effects. There's been, recalls of 3 or 4 because of cancer concerns for high blood pressure medications. So we're like, there's a natural alternative that you possibly could help.
Right. Love that. So let's talk about scaling for a little bit, because when you go and you try to, advertise this is so different than writing a song and having somebody else, distributing it and pushing it out there. So what are some of the things that you went through, and how did you gain the knowledge, really, in terms of trying to, advertise and push this product out?
Well, so I knew going in, just because of my music connections and relationships in town, that because people are like, okay, how are you going to get it out there? How are people going to know? And I know a lot of people in media, so I thought, okay, I could start by calling a bunch of my friends who are on television and get a couple of interviews, which got the ball rolling. Actually, Dr. Lauren Stryker has a segment on WGN. She was the first that went on air and talked about it. So I knew that would be the way. And then we hired a PR company. We realized early on that you have to consistently keep doing this. So it's step by step. I also know a lot about advertising and branding because I've done music for all these brands. So I have people, friends of mine, helping me also. But then at some point we're like, okay, there's only so much earned media you can do. You have to go and I've talked to people at XM Satellite Radio or Comcast and actually do some commercials and run them. So that's where I think the revenue that we're trying to raise would help.
So once we get Tom, the one with the beret, to actually drink this every day, we'll write a jingle. Maybe you could write a jingle about 120 Life and Tom, like maybe be like Tom.
Anything would work.
We did actually a little jingle for it already, but I'll write one for Tom. That's easy.
Fantastic. That's easy.
I love it. Totally easy. All right. So, a quick question. I think you said this, that the doctor had you cut your medication in half, right? And while you were drinking this?
Well, the first thing, exactly. And I say to people, do not do anything until you talk to your doctor.
Right.
But what I say is this. So if you're drinking this and your blood pressure lowers to normal levels, and then you can go to your doctor and say, look, my blood pressure is 120 over 80. Do I need to continue taking my medication? And some might say yes, and some might say, for a week or two, cut your medication in half and keep drinking, 120 Life and see what happens. And if it stays that way, maybe they'll, but do not do anything without your doctor.
That's a good thing to make sure we stamp that. So one of the things as you look forward, you have how many employees today?
So we have like a team of 8 or 9 people.
Okay.
And it's sort of like a virtual company.
Yeah.
And we have distributors. We have the people that do our Amazon and social media stuff. We have somebody that deals with the cold packer that makes the drink. Things like so. We got a whole. I have my assistant who's always takes care of the website.
Right.
So it's a whole little company.
Right. But it started right here in Chicago, right?
It started right in my kitchen.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome.
A
mile from here.
I absolutely love it. So one of the things when you you were talking about it's going to be on Amazon, and then are you guys looking at other places to distribute? Or
I mean, everybody said exactly at the beginning. They said, "Well, how are you going to get to retail?" And I'm like, it's people. I think people don't realize that. I have a daughter 22, and I always say, your generation is so much more fortunate because you can have an idea and go online immediately without $1 million to get it in retail or whatever, and just see what happens, and it could explode from there.
Right.
So my thought was, okay, I'm not really a business person that way, even though I've run pretty successful music companies. Let's start online. It's not going to cost a lot to build a website, and then we'll go to retail afterwards. And now we're starting to talk to people in retail exactly about this.
Right. And so, do you still have time to write jingles and do all the music stuff?
Yes, every day.
Yeah, every day.
I make sure I spend at least an hour a day analyzing music, composing music every day.
And how do you, you've run companies before, right?
Yes.
A lot of the music companies. So as a CEO, right, as a founder of a company, like how would you describe yourself, let's say in 3 words?
Wow. Relentless, passionate, And I don't know if there's a word believability. I think you have to believe. You have to have a passion, and you have to outwork everybody. And at the end of the day, I think somebody else should become the CEO of this. I could be the founder, somebody who's really run a successful beverage business. I realize my limitations. You could put me in a recording studio with anybody, any artist in the world, and I'm great, and I'm fine, and I can record them, produce them. But there's things, just business-wise that I don't know. So, at some point, I think we'll find the correct CEO and hand it over.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. Well, I absolutely love it. So I'm gonna ask one other question. Back to the basketball.
Yes.
Of your top 3 best all-time greatest basketball players that you think that you've experienced.
Wow.
We know what number 1 is, at least in my book.
Well, I think clearly Michael Jordan's the best basketball player we've ever seen. Growing up in New York. You just have a passion for the '69 Knicks. Even though I'm not sure Willis Reed and I went to basketball camp with Walt Frazier.
Oh,
so
cool.
you have like, you went exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say Walt Frazier, sure. Puma Clydes.
Yeah,
sure. The gym shoes.
They were talking about the kid today on Duke, Zion Williamson, 285 pounds. Mm-hmm. I think 6'7", 6'8". Like they say, they've never seen anything like him.
Right, very athletic too.
Clearly Magic Johnson. I mean, I don't know how you name 3, but there's
Yeah, I should have just said the top 10.
Yeah, right.
But Michael Jordan certainly has the best jingle of all.
For sure.
There's no question about that.
Ira, thank you so much for joining us, and I want to wish you the best of luck. I'm going online and ordering some now.
I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks.
Appreciate it. We're going to take a quick 90-second break. When we come back, we got Liz and Jenny next. Let's Taste Trade Live.